coming up this hour. Right now, my guest is Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch. And he's the president of that organization, and always enjoy following him on Twitter and watching the ongoing great efforts on the part of Judicial Watch on our behalf in Washington. Tom, welcome into the program.
Hey, Mark, thanks for having me. I was worried you're going to ask me whether he's being investigated or not.
Do you have an opinion on that, Tom?
I think he is being investigated, or should presume he is, and then respond as appropriate to that by saying any investigation, assuming it's occurring, is a waste of tax dollars. I didn't do anything wrong, and this is just an effort to get me because the other side didn't like their loss.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. Yeah.
To argue whether you're being investigated or not, frankly, isn't the place you want to be, but I'm not a lawyer, so who knows?
Oh, well, okay, there you go. You're not his lawyer, certainly.
Yep.
So let's talk about Jim Comey and these memos for a minute. Judicial Watch has been trying to get their hands on whatever Comey memos might exist.
Yeah, there are two issues there. Obviously, we sued just recently under the Freedom of Information Act, which gives you access to records, and they're reading into the New York Times, but not disclosing them to the American people. And this is a scandal that's got to end, and hopefully the courts will put an end to it. But the other more dramatic issue is whether Mr. Comey took records that didn't belong to him when he left the FBI, namely these memos or maybe other documents he took. And so we notified the FBI that the law requires that they take action if there's a reason to believe that records went missing. And they notify the National Archivist, and they initiate action with the Justice Department. And if they don't do what the law requires, we're going to sue.
Why do you think there would be a hesitation on the part of the Justice Department not to follow through on that?
Well, the FBI is run by friends of Mr. Comey. So I have no doubt there's reasons they're trying to protect him. They're going after President Trump. The agency, the FBI, is just like any other bureaucracy, and it's subject to the complaints and concerns conservatives have had about other bureaucracies, yet no one really wants to follow up on with the FBI because everyone's afraid of it. Mm-hmm. And it's subject to politics and the deep state thinking that we're concerned about all over. And recall the State Department's still fighting us on a similar issue with Hillary Clinton about the efforts to get records. It makes the agency look bad, and of course they're trying to protect the agency head or the former agency head, whether it be Mr. Comey or Mrs. Clinton.
Yeah, those of us on the outside of Washington who think, well, hey, wait a minute, there's a new administration in town. Why would the State Department still be trying to protect somebody who was Attorney General or was Secretary of State 7 years ago? That's baffling to us.
Deep state, I only half jokingly say this. I'm waiting for the Trump administration to come to power.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's absolutely the truth. On the Comey memos specifically, is there an argument they could make? Because I'm not an attorney, but if Robert Mueller wants those memos as part of his investigation, could they stonewall and claim that it's part of an investigation, therefore they can't be turned over?
Well, the only arguments they could make would only persuade an attorney, but no one else.
Right.
And the fact is that he wrote these memos on FBI computers, it looks like, certainly is under his as a result of his position as FBI director and recounting and documenting government activity, meaning the meeting between the president and himself and who knows what else. So, these are government records about government activity, and they are I don't think it passes the laugh test to suggest they're not. And,
yeah.
Mr. Comey had no business taking him, or did the FBI have any business letting him go if indeed that happened?
I know that you had mentioned earlier that you were on Fox Business talking about Loretta Lynch and whether and her efforts to try to protect Hillary Clinton. It strikes me personally, this is a personal comment, that if there's going to be an obstruction investigation against Trump, Jim Comey gave a special investigator all of the evidence he would need to launch an obstruction of justice inquiry into what Loretta Lynch said to him.
Well, that's right. I mean, if the standard is so low as to require an obstruction investigation into the president for firing someone he had a right to fire about pretty much any reason he wanted, certainly there's enough to ask a question of the Justice Department, the Attorney General, when you have the FBI director being so afraid that the Justice Department was compromised that he took it upon himself to act as Attorney General and absolving Mrs. Clinton of wrongdoing.
Right.
Certainly there ought to be some investigation there. Now, there is an IG investigation, Inspector General investigation, of what took place. We've got our own investigation. But President Trump, if I were President Trump, I would authorize the Justice Department, ask the Attorney General or the appropriate official to initiate an investigation as to what went on over at the Justice Department and do an audit so that the American people will be reassured that that investigation into Mrs. Clinton was handled appropriately, and if it weren't, they should reopen it.
Yeah, amen. We can only hope that they move in that direction at some point, but I like you said, I can't wait for the Trump administration to take over. It's how you feel sometimes when you think that they've been in power for 5 months now and haven't. Some of the things I thought might happen more rapidly just haven't transpired yet. So that it's baffling.
Well, the president. The left's response to the president and the bureaucracy's response to the president is, okay, well, he got elected president. Let's pretend he's not really the president, and let's not implement his policies. Let's not hire the people he wants to hire. Let's pretend he has no authority over us as an agency head or a public official. Let's engage in sedition and call it resistance.
Yes, very true. You've got a book out, right, called Clean House? Yes,
it's a great guide to the problems of the Obama administration, at least part of the problems of the Obama administration, and what should be done forward. And, one of the things that we always recommend at Judicial Watch, we do the FOIA and transparency, is that transparency ought to be the watchword, and battling government corruption and accountability. Those are the things that, when you talk about drain the swamp, that's what you mean. And I've advised the White House directly. I've said, use this phrase extreme vetting. How about using the phrase extreme transparency?
Sure.
On the Clinton matters, on the Obama matters, and frankly on the matters that are now dogging the president with Russia and the spying on him.
Well, we see more evidence of that every day. Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch, thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
Yep, have a great day. I appreciate that. You can find his book, Clean House, by the way, on Amazon, because he's right. His organization is still tied up in court, arguing with the Trump State Department over whether or not to release documents relating to Hillary Clinton's time as Secretary of State. How can that be? How does that make sense to anybody? That's baffling to me. I mean, he talks about the deep state. That has to be what it is. Even though the administration has changed, the people that really run the State Department are still fighting to protect Hillary Clinton. Think about that. If you've ever had a question in your mind, what's this deep state they're talking about? This is conspiracy theory. This is like Hillary Clinton saying there's a vast right-wing conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. It's real. It's people in both parties who are part of the established bureaucracy who see the change that Trump wants to bring to America, the change most of us voted for, as a threat to their very existence. And they're going to do whatever they need to do to stop it. So let me recommend, by the way, if you are on Twitter, follow Tom Fitton, at Tom Fitton, Fitton. He's the president of Judicial Watch, and he is a prodigious tweeter, and he puts out some really solid information that can give you a heads up to what's going on around Washington. That's for sure. And thank goodness there's somebody like that up there leading the fight. We wouldn't have half the emails we have from Hillary if it wasn't for their efforts. Plain and simple.